As an institution grows, its digital footprint inevitably expands. You acquire new domain names for regional mergers, expanded networks, or specialized initiatives. A traditional school district might launch an independent online academy, or a corporation might spin up a dedicated brand for a new product line. Faced with this growth, the instinctual response from many IT departments is to create a completely new independent Google Workspace account for every single domain they acquire. That approach immediately creates rigid data silos. It fractures your directory, breaks internal document sharing, and forces administrators to manage duplicate security policies across isolated environments. Integrating multiple domains efficiently requires selecting the correct cloud topology before you deploy a single user. The specific technical mechanism you use to attach a new domain name to Google Workspace directly hardwires your organization's long-term collaborative limits and its billing structure. The structural foundation for a complex organization is a single Google Workspace tenant. This is the overarching container that governs your entire identity infrastructure. A single tenant can securely house hundreds of distinct domains. By keeping these domains under one roof, data pathways remain open, allowing users across different branches to communicate natively. Establishing this architecture early prevents the need to merge separate Workspace accounts in the future, a process that is highly complex, entirely manual, and unsupported by automated migration tools. When adding a new domain, administrators must choose between three distinct deployment pathways: user alias domains, secondary domains, or entirely separate accounts. The choice between these three pathways dictates whether an IT department scales smoothly alongside institutional growth or collapses under its own administrative weight. The first model is the user alias domain. It maps an alternate domain onto existing user accounts, automatically generating an equivalent address on the new domain. Messages sent to either address deliver straight into a single unified inbox. The authentication process remains static. The user continues to log into Google Workspace and create new documents using their primary email identity, not the alias. Because you are not creating new user identities, alias addresses incur no additional cost per user and do not require a separate directory structure. User alias domains are strictly designed for rebranding your existing user base or providing alternate contact addresses. They are not for onboarding new groups. The second model is the secondary domain. This houses an entirely distinct set of user accounts within your original tenant. Users on a secondary domain receive separate login credentials and operate out of standalone mailboxes. Despite separate mailboxes, administration remains unified. IT manages users across both domains through a single admin console, using a single support pin. Looking at the core Google Workspace applications, tools like Docs and Drive maintain native functionality across both domains via a single directory. Resource sharing remains open, allowing all users to access a global booking system for shared calendars and conference rooms. Because you create new identities, your organization must pay for each user account provisioned within the secondary domain based on your Workspace licensing. Secondary domains are the required choice to onboard a distinct new branch of users, while maintaining a single, frictionless internal network. The third model is deploying entirely separate accounts, creating complete tenant isolation. This heavily increases the administrative burden. IT must manage multiple admin console logins, duplicate service configurations, and track separate billing addresses. Identity management becomes fractured. You must run completely separate synchronization operations, like parallel instances of directory sync, to keep user lists updated in both environments. Looking at the core Workspace tools again, the impact on sharing is severe. Internal document collaboration between the two domains is completely severed. Users must rely on restrictive external trust rules just to open a file. Basic communication pathways break down. Global directories, shared contacts, and centralized resource booking systems fail to function across the tenant gap. If an institution realizes this isolation is a mistake, merging these separate accounts later is a highly manual, time-consuming, and risky data migration process. You must avoid the separate account model entirely unless strict legal compliance or entirely independent business operations mandate a physical data barrier. Once you deploy multiple domains within a single tenant, a common misconception emerges. Administrators often assume they will configure service settings and device policies at the domain level. They cannot. The actual mechanism for policy enforcement in a single-tenant architecture is the organizational unit, or OU. To enforce distinct application permissions and security rules, administrators must actively map users from their respective domains into specific, logically structured OUs. Mastering organizational units allows a single cloud tenant to securely support vastly different operational requirements across any number of secondary domains. For maximum efficiency, the single-tenant, multiple-domain configuration is the standard best practice for any growing organization. Deploy user alias domains strictly to rebrand or provide alternate receiving addresses to your existing user base. Deploy secondary domains whenever you need to onboard distinct new user bases while keeping them integrated into your global directory. Success in this architecture requires shifting your IT focus away from domain boundaries and toward building a logical, scalable organizational unit structure. A unified cloud architecture is the essential technical foundation for frictionless institutional collaboration.